So we worked on the Valentine radar detector mount for the universal for all of the bikes in my collection. And it started out being a day. I thought I'd get it finished today, but I ran into a small problem at the end of the day that I wanted to make sure I resolved the best I possibly could. So it added one day to the project at the end, but didn't deter anything. We got an awful lot of other stuff done, and that part is ready tomorrow or the next day. All it's going to be involved is to assemble it and go for a test ride, hopefully. But you never know. There's always a surprise behind every cloud. Today we want to finish that radar detector. That is such a big upgrade for these bikes. I think it's going to really work well. All the test fitting I did yesterday, I had to make a few adjustments. Unfortunately, these things just take more time than you originally think. I always think I'm going to, and I always start off a day thinking I'm going to finish this project, finish this. And then I have to make a decision. This is really good information. When I'm tempted to want to rush and say, oh, I can finish that. Oh, you know what happens? And I think back to other projects that I've rushed, didn't turn out as well as I wanted to. And then in the end, I usually feel so guilty. I go back and do the thing over and do it right, sand the paint off, take it, do it over, whatever. I'm really on this radar detector. A radar detector, for me, is a part of my life. It's like the gas tank or the tires. It makes the riding possible and a lot more fun when you're not sitting wondering what's around the next corner or whatever. And I keep thinking of the funniest thing in the world. I got to go back. This over and over. I've watched this video. The guy is riding somewhere in Pennsylvania, and a helicopter's chasing him at night with a spotlight, and he hides under a bridge. You know what, kids? I don't want to hide under a bridge. And yesterday, this one, when we did the test fitting, we found out we had a clearance issue at full bar lock, and that's why it's really super important to always test the part before you put the finish on it. Now, we always try to share useful information on our channel, and I think this radar detector, I don't know what could be more useful if you're looking to ride and do a lot of riding and enjoy the riding. And how lucky Stefan is. Stefan, you have no idea how lucky you are in Romania that the cops don't bother you. Believe me, that's not the case around here. Everybody I know has paid hundreds of dollars in tickets. And it just takes the ride. Actually, when you're riding with a group, it takes the fun out of the group when somebody gets stopped or gets a ticket or whatever. So I always would rather be safe. And that Valentine radar detector, worth its weight in gold. So we're going to try to finish that up today. And thank you to everybody that sends in these nice comments. I've been reading the comments religiously now, and I've got a lot of questions already. I've got about 10 to answer on the next question and answer video, and I think some of them have some really good, useful information. And there's not much snow left from yesterday, but we're definitely not going to ride today, and that'll give me plenty of patience for dealing with the finishing up this Valentine radar detector mount. I'm not under any pressure to go for a ride today. I got some photos from Romania of Stefan's FZ7, and Les McDonald has basically the same bike. I know 2 or 3 people that have had them, and I've talked to them at length, and they all seem to like them. So I'm just as happy as can be with the MT-09, and I think most modern bikes are pretty good. And Stefan shared some other information I thought was interesting about tank pads, grip pads, whatever you want to call them. I've had them on bikes. I'm going to discuss that at length on the next Q&A, why it would work for some people and not be so good for other people. But, of course, it's all subjective. And I want to thank Stefan giving us this insight, especially to riding on that beautiful road, and thinking about him now riding. He's doing the same thing we're doing. We're waiting for the salt to get off the roads a little more, clean up, get a little warmer out, and all I know is spring is already in the air. So this is the point we're at now. We made this up on the first video. Got the screamer mounted. Realized that the box looked like it was going to be a usable shape and that everything was going to fit when you open the door. So today it's going to be a lot of drilling and filing and whatever. And then we want to put, I have an idea for a finish on this. Don't know if it's going to work. If not, we'll probably wind up painting it black. Now on a project like this, a lot of times it's the simplest thing that winds up being a problem. Now, it's not a real simple thing here, but here's what's going to happen. we want to put this on here, number one. So I need to know how far forward this is going to go. And this looks like, this is the kind of thing, when it's all done, it looks so easy. Like when somebody builds a bridge, the bridge is done, it looks so easy. And then you say, well, where do we put the first beam or something? So now I know the box is going to fit into this area. I also need to know now, and I'm going to back this up, I need to know what this piece is going to go in here. I need to know exactly, and I've got to be pretty accurate about this, where this circle is going to be, because when I put the box on here, I need to put a bolt in, and it looks like I can get the bolt if I put it right in the middle. I need to get at least one bolt. See, I want to get a bolt, a bolt, a bolt. These I can put out here. This one's got to be up here. So let's just make sure I'm not wrong before I go drill some holes. Okay, that can be pretty much in the middle. That can be out here. This can be here. Always looks easier when it's done. Now I just put a piece of tape here. Again, not super critical. We need to drill a hole there. That'll work there. And a hole here and a hole here. Okay, so what that's going to do is I'm going to go over to the drill press. I don't want to have an interference. That's the part for that. So I can get this pretty much out here. Let's just make sure I'm not wrong. And what's good about the tape is you can move it around a lot. Okay. And this is when you're designing something on the fly that becomes like this. So we want to get it up in here if we possibly can. Right about there. That would work. And that'll allow us to get the bolt through there. We can put a nut on the back, a nut on the back. This is going to be here. And it's not going to interfere with the nuts or bolts tightening the bolts. So we have a triangle. And by the way, a triangle is good. I would have rather had one in each corner, but they're going to be as good as I get it. And if it's not solid enough, then I can put two more bolts, one more bolt, but I think this will be fine. What I'm trying to do too as part of this project is make it that I can just take it apart, because I may want to replace this with a bigger box, a different box. And I've already found one in Lowe's that I know works for 26 bucks. And in the future, if I wanted to have a bigger box, I can move it back. What I can't do is move anything forward. So that's the design criteria so far. Next thing is we got to drill some holes. I know anybody that's ever done a similar project where you don't know what the part is going to look like until you're finished making it. And it's got to be one step at a time, like in evolution. And like building a model airplane, you don't really get to see the plane. You've got to design it along the way. Anyway, this worked out good with the tapped holes, and that'll allow the streamer to go on and off. I had a great idea for finishing this. We have some of the wrap left, the clear wrap that I used on the R1 and on some other parts. And I thought if I put the metal turning in and get it looking nice, I just did that to clean the part up, get it looking nice and cover it with clear wrap. That may look cool. If it doesn't, I can always take the clear wrap off, which is the whole idea of Evil Twins, is to be able to undo it and put it right back the way it was. And I did share a few tips on the previous video about getting holes lined up in a precision location. And at the end of it, I always like to countersink the holes just to keep the part as mechanically correct as I can get it. Countersinking is just one of the little details I like to do on parts. So now the next step on this is going to be to get the box and transpose the holes, the 3 holes, into the box. And I'm not sure what that's, plastic, so that'll drill very easily. And get the box bolted in place temporarily. Now with the box in place, the lock in the back, here's another thing I ought to think of. I want to have it, I want the lock in the back. I don't know, maybe the lock should be in, no. The lock should be in the back. Then the box would open this way. Never gave that any thought. When you're doing this, a lot of times you think you have all the answers, but you don't. Yeah, I can put it that way. That would be better. Because this way, if it ever did open up, it would pop open like the hood of a car. This way the wind would... Yeah, I don't know why I'm thinking it is. Just, I'm overthinking the problem. Yeah, this will be the way we put it on. So before I drill the holes, I want to make sure I've got this. This is resting on these reinforced corners. This will hold it in place. Using the plate for a drill guide. And then I'll go get my box of screws and see. I want to have the screws that are inside the box be those button head screws. I know that's very easy now. Now I can use this as a drill guide. And using that for a drill guide, it just ensures that you're going to get all the holes to line up easily without having an oversize. Now the whole idea is to get button head screws here, going through, and then I'll cover it with that soft pad because I don't want anything in here rough or sharp interfere with the wires or all the wiring that's going to go in here. Luckily we have plenty of bolts and nuts to work with and got this. Now I'm going to trim these eventually, or I'm just going to look for shorter bolts. I don't need to have that sticking out there, but even if I did, this would be one of the choices, this little rubber things, because what I don't want to have happen is in moving this around I scratch the tank. So one of the goals will be to shorten that as much as possible or put this on when we do the final assembly. Now the next step before we can mount the ring, these two holes have to go through the box, and that'll give us some additional support. And I want to make sure the bolts are long enough, so I'll do like a little test fit, make sure that fits, make sure everything is bolted in there fine before we go to the next step. And we're getting a lot of use out of our Harbor Freight drill press today. It's working just fine. Now this is the part that'll take some time because we got to figure out all the important things. This wire, and I'm going to have to tighten all of this stuff up here. This wire has to go out to pick up the juice. This one goes out to the screamer. Everything has to fit in here, and then I have to get this wire to come out and go up to the unit. So it looks like I'm going to have to drill some holes. Maybe one hole up here, one hole on each side. Yeah, it looks like one hole on each side will do it. So it looks like I'm going to I've marked where I want to put the holes, and I'm going to have to take the box off and take it over to the drill press and drill those holes and see if I have some little rubber grommets or anything I can use in there. So the biggest, most critical plug for the power plug, that'll fit right through there. And I'm not sure we could use that to put the other one through also for the screamer. We have to see if that's going to fit. If that fits, then we're done with this hole. If not, we got to make it bigger. Oh, that fits. Okay, now we got to get one wire to go up to the radar detector, but I want to make the radar detector mount first and see exactly where I want to put that hole. So it looks like one of the choices that works real well is this wire doesn't even really need a hole. I just put a little bit of a divot in there, a little notch, because what's going to happen, that holds the wire steady. If it's in a hole, that wire is going to go back and forth. Now what happens here is you don't want to put any stress. This is a critical thing. You don't want to stress this wire. Once that's snapped in, you don't want in the middle of a ride that pops out. So we don't want to, having that wire solid is a good thing. Now I was thinking, one of the things I was thinking, just to make that wire shorter, I could put this off to the side. I'm not sure. Let's see what that... I think it looks the best in the middle. Yeah, we will get to the knob and everything. Now, what I want to do, though, is I want to make... I've always had this mounted with 5-minute epoxy. I want to make a little carbon fiber mount and put 4 screws in it so that I can take this off conveniently if I ever have to mail this back to Valentine. Now, this has been... I bet 5 or 6 years it's been totally bulletproof. I've never heard of anybody having one go bad, but just in case, that would be a good choice. So I'll make a little Cheerios box pattern of what I want, and that'll be pretty easy. We'll glue that to the part, drill the holes. This is the final piece of the puzzle. This is ready to go, and this wire has to be able to go in and out. The wire to the screamer, everything fits in the box. I don't know if it could be a lot better than that. So pretty much like a lot of things we do, it starts with a cardboard pattern of Cheerios. So let's see if once I do this whole operation, and get the part made out of cardboard, then I can go to the scrap bin, see what we have in scrap, and we'll be able to make this part up in just a few minutes. And what this is going to allow me to do conveniently is take, with just a couple of screws, take the radar detector off if I ever have to send it back to Valentine. But again, it's been super, super reliable. And it's not only mine, everybody I know that's had one, it's just as reliable. Okay, so that pretty much looks like that'll work. And then this will go on top of that. I'm not sure it gets a lot better than that. Okay, to the scrap boxes, and I can see that's not going to make it. Too small. Aha! There you go. There we have it already. Wow. Lucky us. Now, the trick is always use the smallest piece. This is not going to be big enough. In other words, don't take a big piece like this, a relatively big piece, and chop it up if you can get away with chopping up a smaller piece. And we've got, nope. Oh, we're going to cut that piece out. I'll lay it out in tape, cut it out, drill it, and drill the holes. And once we get this attached to the radar detector, we're pretty much ready to disassemble it and put a finish on it. So once we have the pattern made, the Cheerios box pattern, that's always where it starts. And that's why I eat a lot of Cheerios. And see, it says heart shape. That's even better. Anyway, we laid out the pattern as far off to the side because I don't want to waste anything. And you never want to cut a big piece in half. You want to work off to the side. These are the things that you think of when you think of how much time and energy and money it takes to make the carbon fiber. We make it from scratch, of course. And I've shown how to do that many times on the video. And always vacuum up. This is a meticulous thing. Vacuum as you go. In my case, I changed the towels out. Shake them out outside. Use the belt sander to true it up as much as possible. Radius off all the edges and corners. The one thing you don't want to have is razor blade edges. Here I can see I made the part oversized. See how much oversized it is? I always leave the line on. Now I can go back and grind that off. So it's an absolute perfect fit, almost a press fit. And then I can lay out exactly where I want this by just maneuvering things around. Make up my pattern. Put some tape on the part, lay out exactly where I want to drill the holes, and I want the holes to be a precision fit. I want to be able to take the bolts and put them right in, not have to make the holes oversized or have it all crooked or whatever, and just making it a workmanlike part. And I always did that from all the years I built model planes, and it's carried over for sure into motorcycling. And having a precision part is beautiful. Now the next thing on this is to get this, let's get it close anyway. And the same technique that we used yesterday. What I'm going to do is drill one hole, put a bolt in, come back, drill a second hole, put the bolt in, and then use this for a drill guide. That was on yesterday's video, and that is a really, really good tip. Now, obviously, there's a lot of good ways to make your own radar detector mount, whether it's for a car or for a motorcycle or whatever. And this is my way, and I try to use materials I have in stock, technology that I'm comfortable using, the devil I know technology, laying out patterns, laying out precision holes, and always using that technology of drilling one hole first and use that to drill the rest of the holes. I put that on yesterday's video again. So what I need to do now is roughen this area up, and the back of this is already cleaned. Get some 5-minute epoxy on there. I don't have to overdo this now. The epoxy is very strong. And what I want to have happen here is that when I want to remove this, I can just heat it with a hairdryer. 165 degrees is this epoxy that we use. And this has been pretty good epoxy. I'm really satisfied the way it's worked so far. But Brodak is good epoxy too, the Brodak 5-minute. Both good. Now you always want to roughen a part up and have it clean at least 400 grit. Now that's roughened up just about exactly the way I would want it. Now I only put the tape on here so I could pretty much, this is the whole thing in a nutshell. I don't want to get the part scratched because you're going to see this edge of the carbon fiber here. I don't want to get it scratched and I don't want to have it damaged in any way. Now, one thing nice about using this epoxy, you have 5 minutes to babysit it, and it'll speed up with heat and get slower if it's cold in your shop. Mix it up, and then you have 5 minutes to just babysit. So I dismantled everything. Everything's taken apart now. The epoxy's drying. While it's drying, I want to take my little tool, put some more nice fresh swirls in this, make sure all the edges are nice and smooth, countersink the holes, and then I want to try. I have this clear wrap that we used to use. I put it on the R1 by the bottom of the fairing and in various places that it takes a beating, and it's like the stuff you peel off the back and stick it on. It's fake carbon fiber or something, but it's clear. I got it from Dave Midgley, and what I thought I want to try, once I put the swirls back in this, and I'll do a nice neat job then, and then I'll put that clear on. If I don't like it, I can peel it off and paint it black. So I'll have two choices. This at least etches the part up. Now the idea, and I was thinking about this, by putting the swirls in, and this is the little Harbor Freight tool, it's very easy to do. There's no commitment to it. If you don't like it, you sand it right off or paint over it. In this case, the one part of it, I was going to cover it with that clear wrap. I did not take into account it's going to become a little mirror. And when you're riding the bike, that's going to be reflecting up in your eyes. And I thought, so in the middle of this, I kind of figured that. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to like the metal turning until after I put this together, but I'll put it together. If I don't like it, it's pretty easy. I'll just tear it apart and paint it black. So what happened, and I'm not really disappointed the way this worked out. I took a little piece of this out, put it over here, took it out in the sun, and I realized something right away. It was going to be a problem. When you're riding the bike, this is going to be reflecting in your face, so I don't know about this look. And so what I decided to do, and of course it's a corporate decision always, I'm just going to paint it black, prime it, put some black and a coat of clear on it, because you're only really going to see the very edge of it. But of course, black always makes things look smaller than they are. In this case, the silver made this look bigger than it is. And I was trying to make, of all things, now I hate to even say this, but I was even considering painting it flat black. I know that just isn't going to happen. Yeah, I never took into account that was going to be pretty annoying when you're riding with the sun at your back. It's going to be like doing this all the time. Maybe I will paint it flat black in the future if this is too shiny. I'll have to see if it affects the video at all. But right now, I already have black in the gun. That'll be easy to do. Well, we made a handle up. Next thing is to get it primed, get the prime to dry. Now, the fact that I just sanded that 10 minutes ago, the primer should stick. We only need a thin coat. As soon as that dries, we'll get it painted black. And I'm going to use up, because I'm using this up, I only had one good can out of about 6 that I had. 5 of them went bad. That halfway through the can, they start spitting. This is one of the few good ones. Of course, the idea is to get on just one thin coat of primer. The thinner, the better. Yeah, it's nice and sunny out here. I'll go have a cup of coffee when I come back. It'll be ready to paint the black. I was lucky. I still had black in the gun from the last job I did, so this was just saved me a little bit of time loading and cleaning. Now the sun is drying that right up. Actually, it turned out to be a pretty nice day here. The snow is almost all melted. Now once that's dry, we'll mix up some clear, get some clear on. That's about all we're going to be able to do today until that dries. And tomorrow the last thing will be to just put it all, assemble it, test it, and check it on all the bikes once again. Now we're ready for clear, and this gallon of clear has been donated by Turbo Steve to the A-Team Paint Supply. And thank you, Turbo Steve. I marked a little cup because I'm only going to mix about a half a gun of this material. No sense wasting it. It's a 4-to-1 mix, and the way the day is playing out, this will dry up quickly. Now, I'm not sure you see it in this video because it's in fast forward, but I put the first coat on very, very dry, almost like an airbrush, let it kick off. Then I reset the gun, put the second coat on, just the way you would normally put paint on. That's a relatively thick coat. So here at the B&B, while our paint is drying, in between coats, we'll get the cushions out It's turned out to be a really nice day. When you run a bed and breakfast, you got to be always aware of the comfort of your guests. This will make sitting out here a lot more comfortable. There's a sure sign of spring. The fountain is going, but there's still a little bit of snow around. You never know. I'm always an optimist. Ever the optimist. Spring is in the air. And with the last coat of clear on, we're pretty much going to have to wait till tomorrow to work on this again. But for sure, tomorrow, we'll be able to finish this up. This day worked out just... End of a very, very productive day. No, I just couldn't resist getting the bike out. And looking at the parts, the mods we made, this has really been a true labor of love. Anybody that's watched the channel all this time, you know, we have not skimped on labor. And tomorrow we should be able to finish the part for good. And as I'm doing this video, John is busy with the prototype of the t-shirts. Boy, does it look cool. This bike shows up very well on a t-shirt. And at the end of the day, I just like to sit and oodle the bike. So this was a pretty good day. We got this part ready. This will be sitting up by a heating vent tonight. Well, maybe tomorrow. I don't know. The jet's going over here. Big jets landing at Teterboro every day now. So anyway, once this dries up, the parts we see will buff out. This will be one more day to assemble it, get it on a bike, test it, and if it's nice out, go for a ride. And that's the whole reason we do all of this, to go for a ride. And it's not going to be long, and we're going to be back on the back roads of North Jersey on a regular basis. The minute you get that first little taste of spring, well, we've already had a couple little rides, but the real riding season is probably a month away. We have a few loose ends to take care of. There's still 4 or 5 little items. Turbo Steve emailed me today that he's busy priming the turbo bike he wants me to paint. So we got a lot of stuff happening. And the kids, starting next week, the kids are going to have the sheetrock started in their house. I'm excited about that as well as they are. So thanks so much for watching. We post every day. We'll see you tomorrow.